So guys, if you watched my last video, I went over 8 of the best solo drop spots for you guys in chapter 6. In today's video, I'm going over 8 trio drop spots that I know will help you and your trio pop off in cash cups and FNCS and beyond. Be sure to stay till the end of the video so you guys don't miss any important information. Let's get right into it. So guys, this first POI is going to be on the south side of the map. This is going to be known as splitting pins. This is going to be a really small trio drop spot, and once again, it's on the south side of the map, pretty far from the center, so rotation may be difficult here. However, it has a really big payoff in the sense that you guys can get a good amount of loot for your trio pretty quickly. Obviously for trios, you're going to be needing more loot in a small amount of area than game modes like solos or duos, for example. But like I said, the big benefit of this POI is the vast amount of wood you guys can get really quickly. This kind of reminds me of Logjam Woodworks back from in chapter 2. But since you're able to get this loot super quickly, you guys can obviously farm a bunch of other things like these metal right here. Metal's not going to be a problem at this POI, which is one reason I also like it as well. And of course guys, it's going to be having a fair amount of chests, so you guys will be able to get loot. And something else, it has this brand new sort of mythic chest that you guys can get that was added this season. And the good thing is that you guys can pick up something that gives all of your teammates a good advantage. Now that's the one thing for this season that I think is really beneficial, is going to be these sort of cards that you can get. That's going to be helping you and your team out quite a bit. But most of all, I think that this POI is just a really small area that's going to be having a great amount of loot. In terms of how I'd recommend you guys land here, my honest recommendation would be that one of you guys tries to land on the big house, one of you guys land on the small shack, and then one of you can land in the surrounding area. Maybe you guys want to land over further in that area where you can kind of loot those chests, or you guys can land on those trucks. Basically, whichever way you want to split this POI. If you're uncontested, it's very logical. If you're contested, I'd recommend you guys all land on the big barn right there. But that's pretty much it for splitting pins. It's a great POI. Now guys, this next drop spot is going to be called Kappa Farm. This place is going to be located once again on the southern side of the map. However, this one's going to be more southeast than the rest of the POIs. It's going to be a really small place. This is actually smaller than the first one. However, the big benefit is going to be the fact that there are slurp barrels and the fact that there's a lot of materials and overall loot into a small amount of area. I kind of know that that's the theme for all of my POIs that I go over, but I do that on purpose. The smaller the amount of area you have to loot, the faster you can do that, and the faster you can rotate to backup loot spots, or you guys can rotate to W key if you want to do that as well. Like I said, you guys can all pop the slurp barrels, you guys can obviously farm up all of the wood. The tractor here is really good for metal, as is the sort of thing behind it. And of course, there's going to be a fair amount of metal. Obviously, not that much for the whole team, but you guys can definitely make do with what you've got. If you guys are uncontested, I'd recommend one player land on each one of these houses. So one here, one there, and then one on this house over there. Then you guys can pretty quickly loot it and then go on your way, rotating to other parts of the map in order to get other advantages, such as metal, such as eliminations from W keying. Whatever it is that you guys need, you can get from this POI, and then you can easily rotate out and then make the best of other POIs around you. Kappa Farm, great spot. I definitely recommend it to all trios that are considering landing at a low-key drop spot that's unlikely you're going to be contested at. If you are contested, just land in the biggest house, pretty straightforward. But that's it for Kappa Farm. Now guys, this next POI is going to be pretty close to the edge of the map on the north side. This is going to be Placid Paddies. A great benefit of this area is the slurp truck off the rip. You and your whole trio can land on the slurp truck and then loot this big house over here. Once you guys are able to get that slurp truck, you're going to have full shield. So that means you can save up all the rest of the shield while you're at this POI that you get. And then of course, these houses are fairly easy to run around and loot. So just quickly run through it, you and your whole trio, get all of the chests, get everything you guys need. It's going to be having a fair amount of chests. And then once you guys are able to do so, I'd recommend you just rotate around the area. Utilize fishing since this place is so close to the edge of the map. Fishing is such an underrated tactic that I think every trio specifically should be doing. It's more valuable in trios than it is in any other game mode. So definitely consider fishing at POIs that are near the coastline. But the vast amount of chests in a small amount of area are crazy. There's going to be 3 chests in this little pool alone that you and your trio can loot super quickly. Considering this fact, it is likely that you may be contested here, even though this POI is pretty far from the center of the map. If you guys are contested, the way that I'd recommend you guys land is pretty straightforward. I'd recommend simply put, you guys try to land one person there if you're uncontested, one person here, and then one person on this lake or this lake, depending on how you guys want to split it. And then if you're contested, it's pretty simple. Get the slurp truck and then go and loot the biggest house over there. In terms of rotating to the center of the map, my recommendation, utilize all the mobility items you guys can get, and then just simply use your movement abilities to get to the center of the map. I know we are kind of far, but once you get to Lost Lake, you're pretty much there. And it's only going to be around 600 meters away. There's many different mobility items you guys can utilize. Overall, Placid Paddies, great drop spot, definitely would recommend. Alright guys, so this next spot that I'm coming in on is going to be a very wide split. This is going to be the Crabby Cove split. This area is called Crabby Cove. However, around it, there's going to be plenty of places you guys can land as a trio and split in order to maximize your loot. There's going to be this area right here, this small little shack right there, and then of course, the Crabby Cove area. Obviously, the person that's landing at the Crabby Cove area is going to be having the most loot and the opportunity to fish, of course. You guys can easily and quickly loot because these builds are going to be editable by every single player in the lobby. You guys may remember this from the chapter 1 map. Simply put, what I recommend you guys do is try to loot this as quick as possible, and since this split is so wide, Don't worry about waiting for other teammates to come around for you guys to use the slurp barrels. Use them as quick as possible and then try to meet up together. A great benefit of this POI is the vast amount of materials you can get really quickly. There's going to be tons of bricks you guys can farm. There's going to be these metal speakers, which you guys can also farm. Obviously, they're not going to give you too much metal, but at least it's a start. And then, of course, guys, once you guys are max on wood and brick, you guys can farm these little boats right here. This one's going to be giving you a fair amount of metal if you want to get this. And then you guys can go on the boat and obviously use your fishing to your advantage. There's not going to be too many fishing holes here, but you guys can obviously fish for smaller items, like small fry or whatever else you may need. And guys, coolers are also something that's super underrated. Definitely loot all the coolers that you guys see. And of course, these elemental chests. Get the void boom, and then just go on your way trying to meet up with your teammate. Basically, on the map, you will be landing at this Crabby Cove area. Your teammates can either land at this small little shack near there, or they can land closer in the shack that's a little bit closer on top of this hill. This is going to be one area. Another teammate can land, obviously one at the Crabby Cove area. And then if you guys rotate more over to the east side of the map, the third teammate can land around this sort of edge. There's going to be some chests scattered around the area. They're going to need some practice if you guys want to find them all. There's obviously this little ledge right there, some zip lines, obviously some trees and other chests around the area. But overall, it's a very wide split. Yes, it's not the greatest split considering that it is very south, and it also is very difficult to rotate out of considering that there's two big POIs kind of blocking you. However, if you want to play really passive, rotate really hard dead side maybe, this is a great POI, great split. If you're contested, which is pretty unlikely, all three of you should try to land on the Crabby Cove area and then utilize the water to rotate out onto the dead side of the map. So guys, this next trio spot that I'm landing at is going to be called Air Onsen. This place is going to be near the northern side of the map, but not too far from the center, so it's a pretty fair spot to rotate out of. Obviously, tons of materials around the area, tons of wood, brick, metal's obviously going to be a bit more scarce, but you guys can find that easily by using these geysers to rotate. That's the main thing from this POI, Air Onsen. It's going to have geysers that you guys can easily use to rotate around. For example, what I'm doing right here is I'm using this geyser trying to rotate to other parts of the POI itself. As you guys can see, it's going to be this sort of lake right here with another geyser, going to be tons of loot scattered around the area, a reboot van as well. And then of course there's going to be these areas that you guys can land at and farm. You guys can get loot from all these chests laying around the area. If you're landing here as a trio, I'd recommend you guys split it like this. One person lands at that shack that I landed at, one person lands here, one person lands at that shack over there. Pretty straightforward. And of course guys, because this is going to be a smaller lake, there's definitely going to be fishing spots over here that you guys can use to fish. And like I said, fishing is crucial in this chapter. Everybody needs to be doing it. And considering that there aren't too many chests, you guys can also have backup loot routes in this area. You guys can rotate over to POIs such as Pumped Power, Demon Dojo, Shining Span, Seaport City. Pretty much wherever you want to rotate, you can do that. It's going to be giving you great options for backup spots or backup loot routes in general. But of course, you still can get a fair amount of loot from this POI. So definitely don't count it out. It's a great POI that a lot of people tend to overlook. I would definitely recommend people land here in order to maximize their chances of playing well on a passive playstyle in trios. Now guys, from the air, this next POI is going to be a smaller split. This is going to be Moisty Manor and then Sleepwalker's Peril. This split is going to be really good even though it is a mouthful. I would recommend one person lands on that hill and then two of the players land on the manor. There's going to be plenty of loot here for both of you guys. You guys can land at this place, easily loot. There's going to be slurp barrels that you guys can have. Tons of chests, of course. The loot density here is definitely going to be ramping up. It's going to be a step up from the previous POIs. Tons of ammo boxes, tons of floor spawns, pretty much everything you guys can need. And of course, they also have a mythic chest that you guys can use right here. Once you guys are completely done looting this place, I'd recommend you try to meet up in between your Moisty Manor area that you guys landed at, and then of course the place where your third teammate landed at. If you guys are contested, it's pretty much a no-brainer. You guys should land at the manor. However, consider the fact that the other team is going to be having high ground here, so it is crucial that you guys know how to fight in this situation. Of course, up here, there's not going to be too much loot. There's just going to be basic floor spawns, maybe a couple of chests, some coolers as well. Don't forget to loot those. And then, of course, guys, you have easy rotation out of here into other areas of the map. Because this POI is fairly central, you guys are really, really close to Lost Lake. As you can see, it's right there. All you need to do is just use a couple of mobility items or use the water to get over there pretty quickly. And like I said, if you're uncontested, one person lands here, two people land at the house. But if you are contested, all three of you should land at the house, get the loot quickly, and then rotate over here and eliminate the team if possible, or just split the POI, both great options. In terms of where this sort of porta potty takes you, this takes you really quickly to the downstairs area below sort of the hill, so you guys can rotate down without taking any fall damage. But overall, this split's really good. I definitely recommend it for you and your trio. Now guys, this next POI is going to be more of that suburb, sort of Holly Hedges, Retail Row, Greasy Grove type of POI. This is going to be Masked Meadows. Obviously, it's not going to be in the same format of houses, but it's just going to be smaller buildings kind of spread across that sort of layout. Obviously, this is going to be a big named POI, so your likelihood of being contested is very high here. So honestly, there's not too much to go over in terms of how to actually play here. What I recommend is you guys just land here as much as possible with your trio, learn it off spawn, and then learn how to win it. That's your best bet. Basically, guys, what I'd recommend you do is loot 1, maybe 2 buildings, rotate out of this POI, rotate somewhere else where you guys can stay alive for the majority of the game. And then other than that, there's not too much in this POI that I have to go over. In terms of where I'd recommend you guys try to land, if you can, land over at those 2 buildings or these 2 buildings because they are really solid. They're going to be having a lot of loot for you and your trio. You can rotate out pretty efficiently, and that's what I'd recommend you guys do at Masked Meadows. But now guys, for my 8th and final POI, this is going to be Pumped Power. For trios, in my opinion, this is one of the best spots considering how central it is, how much loot it has, and overall how good the POI is in terms of fighting and then rotating out efficiently if you guys don't want to fight as well. You guys can land wherever you want. However, if you're contested, which is very likely, land on the same building. So for example, all 3 of my trio would land on this one building right here, or all 3 of my trio would land on that building or this building. Basically, wherever you guys are, try to land on the same building. If you're uncontested, obviously just split the drop. It's pretty straightforward. But if you're not, which is very likely, like I said, land together. Also, what you guys should do here, because this geography of this POI is very different, it's very difficult to fight in, play it as much as possible early on in the season as you can, because you guys could learn how to fight in it better than every other team. Learn the different angles. For example, learn how to shoot people from this angle right here. Also, maybe try to learn how to shoot people from on top of things. Learn what's the best high ground position. Learn everything about how to fight on this POI off spawn. That's how you're going to succeed in the early stages of the season. Also, try to learn where the most amount of chest spawns are, because like I said, the loot density is crucial. For example, right now I have a shotgun and 2 ARs, and then I also have full shield. That's because I landed at areas that I assumed had a lot of chests. Obviously, when you're contested, this will be different simply because you guys will need to stay with your team. You're going to need to focus on where the enemy teams are, because if the enemy teams catch you off guard, you're pretty much going to be eliminated. Teams that land here are going to be good, don't get me wrong. So you guys need to land here, practice it, or you need to land here and practice how to leave it. So for example, if you land at this building right here with your trio, you guys can rotate over to this bridge and then go on your way rotating around the rest of them. Overall, this POI is great. Pump tower, very solid, has a lot of big benefits. It's going to be having a radio tower really close to it as well. That's something else you guys should consider. But I definitely recommend you guys land here. One of the best named POIs for trios in this season. But anyways, guys, that is the video on the 8 best trio drop spots. If you enjoyed, please drop a like and let me know in the comments if you guys are excited for the season, and I am excited as well. So be sure to tell me if you agree or disagree and why in the comments. And I will see you all in the next video. Bye, guys.